Hello, fellow Godzilla fans. I'm Kaiju Kid, and I'm just here today to share my top 25 favorite Godzilla and Kaiju related figures and memorabilia collectible pieces. Because if I know one thing about us Kaiju nerds, it's that we love to show off our stuff. So I figured, why not? If you see anything in here that you have and you particularly enjoy, or maybe there's some stuff in here you didn't know existed, then I hope you get a kick out of the list and I hope you enjoy. And starting off at number 25, actually, our first figure is a bootleg. This is a boot of a Sofubi Mechagodzilla figure, depicting him shedding his disguise skin. I originally saw this figure on eBay and thought it was kind of amusing, but I didn't think anything more of it until I went to G-Fest the same year, went and found the toy at a booth, and realized later, checking HD imagery, that this was the exact same figure that I'd seen on the eBay listing, down to the marks and scuffs on the toy. But it was just too weird and awesome to pass up, so that's how we're going to start off the list here, is with a bootleg, because of course we are. At number 24, I love Godzilla medallions and coins, so this is the G-Force gold medallion coin from Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. I absolutely love the G-Force logo, I love medallions, and this is just my favorite one of my medallions pieces, so it gets to squeak onto the list here. Number 23 is the SH Monster Arts Little Godzilla. I know I'm in a solid minority when it comes to loving this character, but he's such a goofy, lovable little chunker that I just couldn't resist having the most detailed and nice looking version of him in toy form. So there you go. He looks good, he's cute, moving on. Number 22 is the Hyper Bandai Godzilla 2004. These hyper figures are basically just very hard, solid little model kits that you would piece together, made of very heavy plastic. And this is my favorite of them, being the 2004 design of the character. And this one came with a variant of translucent backplates. But I just like it better than the Bandai vinyl figures because of the stance, the ferocious look in his face, the glowing spines, the posture, just everything. I love what a good action toy it is. Number 21 is the Trendmasters Supercharged Godzilla. This was my childhood favorite when I found this. This was the one I played with the most. It's just a great Americanized version of the Heisei design. I absolutely adored this figure and any of the other Trendmasters stuff that I was able to find out in the wild. I just loved this guy so much. He was my childhood favorite for a long, long time. Number 20 is the Bandai Vinyl Godzilla 1995 Burning. You're going to see a lot of Bandai vinyl on this list because overall it is my favorite series of Godzilla figures that I have. But just this one managed to capture the look of the suit so very well. It's excellently balanced, it's got good paint. This, to me, was just a time when Bandai really seemed to take a lot of pride in the quality of their sculpting, and this one was no exception to that at all. Number 19, the GMK Bandai Vinyl Baragon. I love Baragon, I love all the dinosaur monsters, but this is my favorite Baragon figure that I own just because of how good it looks. Just somebody put quality work into this figure, and it not only captures the look of that Baragon particularly well, but it's just a good toy. Number 18 is the Bandai Vinyl Jet Jaguar. I know, big surprise, another Bandai Vinyl, but I love Megalon, I love Jet Jaguar, and I just never had a toy of him growing up, and that was one of my big regrets because I loved the character so much, but I never had the means to be able to get one growing up in the early 90s especially. So when they finally made this one, I was thrilled. And the only thing I would change is I would prefer he have the open flying palms or karate fists rather than the closed punching fists, but it's a very small gripe because overall, yeah, this figure looks great and it's actually got a fantastic paint job as well, which is not always something you would see in a Bandai vinyl figure. Number 17 is Orochi the Eight-Headed Dragon from the movie of the same name in the West, or originally Yamato Takeru. The film is not incredibly well known or even liked in the West by Toho fans, but I think that's kind of a shame. I love the movie. It's so fun and bright and colorful, and it's got a lot of cool looking monsters, the best of which by far is Orochi, and I just marvel at this toy because it was so big. I can't imagine it would have been particularly easy for any child to actually play with this thing, but it just looks magnificent, and it's just fun to hold and to look at the details and just how hard this thing must have been to piece together. But I love Orochi, and it's a great toy of it. Number 16 is the Trendmasters Combat Claw Zilla Godzilla Geno figure 1998. Not a popular movie in the fandom, I get that, but it still has a lot of nostalgia value for me, and I loved this toy. It was one of my early pieces I actually did collect when I got serious in my youth about collecting kaiju figures, and it's just my favorite of any of the Godzilla 98 toys that I own, just because it was so good to play with, it was so well made, and it just has an actual good look all about it. And it had a good action feature, and it roared, which to me, a roaring gimmick goes a long way. Number 15 is the Bandai Super Premium 1994 Godzilla. This thing is ridiculous. It is 2 feet tall, almost 4 feet long with the tail. Couldn't quite even fit it in the frame to photograph it here, but it's an amazing toy, and when I first saw it it's basically a giant plastic statue, but it just fills a room, and it just looks so impressive in a collection. And when I first saw it, I had to have it, even though I was probably ill-advised to do so, because this boy is expensive, and all the more so now. Mine's a bit beaten up and worn with love. He's got yellowed eyes and a broken tail, but I figure that just means he needed somebody to love him and to take him in, and he has a very proud place of honor in my collection. Number 14 is the bootleg Biollante model kit. I don't remember what the original company was that would have produced this design, but I found this at a time when Biollante figures, especially at the time in my life, were way beyond affordable, and it was before the advent of the SH Monster Arts version, so I needed something cheap because I had the bug and I had to get my collection filled out. So I bought her off of eBay, I painted her up myself, and I'm still very proud of my paint job because I think it turned out very well. But this model kit is just good looking. This was well sculpted, it pieced together beautifully, and it's still my favorite Biollante piece in my collection, though I might be a little biased in that regard. Number 13 is the Bandai Vinyl Godzilla 1968, because this is my childhood Godzilla right here. This was the superhero Godzilla that I grew up loving, one of my all-time favorite designs of the suit, and when Bandai finally produced this one as an action figure, well sculpted, just perfectly capturing the look, I was ecstatic. I could not have been happier, and he is still very, very much prized and beloved by me. At number 12 is Grand King Ghidorah. This is my favorite Ghidorah toy that I own, just because it was one of the best Ghidorah designs ever made. He just looks so menacing and imposing, and arguably one of the best things to come out of the Mothra trilogy. But the toy is big and bulky and impressive and just really fills the shelf nicely, looking quite a bit more intimidating than most of the other Ghidorahs that he shares the shelf with. At number 11, the Trendmasters Rodan. I love how Trendmasters put such an artistic spin on their figures, or how they did. They're out of business, of course, but just they had such an interesting perception of how to make these monsters look. They are ferocious, they're very, very 90s, but that's just what I loved about them. They were so cool looking, and they were extremely fun to play with, and this one was no exception. At number 10, the NECA beam-firing blue backplate Godzilla. I don't know exactly what the name was that the fans agreed on just calling it for short, but the one that breathes fire from King of the Monsters 2019. I'm a sucker for repaints and variants and nicely colored alternate versions, And so I fell in love with this figure when I got it because it's so many colors I love. Ocean blues and teal greens and blues and just very nice, appealing colors that serviced what they were going for very well. And it is my absolute favorite NECA Godzilla figure. At number 9, the Shogun Godzilla. This one has a deep place of love in my heart because it was the very first Godzilla toy I ever remember playing with at my dear grandma's house, who she is also the one responsible for getting me into the fandom because she had 3 tapes of Gigan, Megalon, and King Kong vs. Godzilla that started my lifelong addiction. And I got to play with this boy. As you can tell from the pictures, he is very loved. Got beaten up, his toenails are missing, but he was cherished, and I was very happy to be able to inherit this when my dear granny passed away, because it is just chock full of love and memories from a very happy time in my childhood. At number 8, the Revoltech Anguirus. Anguirus is one of my favorite characters in the entirety of the franchise, and so when I set out to find what to me was the most ideal and good-looking version of the character, I wanted this because Revoltech nailed it. It looks so accurate to the movies. It's such a nicely sculpted figure. I'm not a big fan of overly articulated kaiju figures, but they did such a good job with this one that I don't tend to think about the Revoltech joints. They nailed it. They truly did. At number 7, a very weird one, the Atomic Breath Roar Godzilla 2014. This thing is goofy, it's silly, it's a kid's toy, but I absolutely adore it because it's just, what other Godzilla figure do you have out there where you bend him over, he pukes out a big stream of watery looking fire breath, it glows and he roars. I told you, I love gimmicks, I love electronic features, and just, this thing was so silly that I just absolutely adored it. And was very happy to actually find it at a good price because the scalpers hit this one hard. Number 6, my probably third favorite Godzilla suit design ever, the King Kong vs. Godzilla design, 1962. And proof to me that just because a toy is bigger doesn't necessarily make it better or look better, because there are many bigger versions of this iteration of the character, and they all look great, but to me this one captured the 62 suit so well that I just didn't need any more after this. This to me was the crown jewel of this design. To me this was just the pinnacle of what Bandai Vinyl could do with the design. So I did not need any more after it. At number 5, the Monster Arts Kokyo Kyoku Godzilla 1989. The 1989 suit is my favorite Godzilla design ever, and Biollante is one of my favorite films in the franchise, so when I discovered that this existed and I could have a Godzilla figure that not only looked this good, but also had light-up backplates and roared and played music, he had to be mine, and I absolutely love it so much. It's just the combination of every well-sculpted, gimmicky thing you can cram into one toy that I just cherish so much. At number 4, the Trendmasters Anguirus. Again, weird design, a lot of artistic license on this thing, but I still just love it because I would have been perfectly happy seeing a version of Anguirus like this pop up in the 90s. As strange, I mean, he's very muscular, he looks very superhero monstery, but I love the stance, I love the colors they went with for him. Even the diminished backpack of spikes looks kind of cool. I adore it. I love Trendmasters so much, and this one just, mwah, mwah, love it. At number 3, I am a gigantic fan of Megumi Odaka. I was meeting her at G-Fest was one of the happiest days of my life, and when she came to G-Fest, she brought actual worn props of the Mickey Sagusa earrings. They had 8 sets in total, and they were selling them for a pretty hefty price, I must admit, but I love the character of Mickey Sagusa, and I love Megumi Odaka so much that the idea of owning some actual Toho history and having those props to take home and give a special place of honor to on the shelf was just, it made me overjoyed. So even though the price tag may not have been very well advised, I could not be happier to just have these in my collection. Number 2, the Bandai Vinyl 1999 Godzilla. This was the peak era of Bandai just getting the absolute best out of their vinyl figures in terms of sculpting, just making it look like the suits were in your hands. And the 2000 design, 1999-2000 design that they crafted here still stands as one of the best figures Bandai Vinyl has ever made. And I've loved this thing now for 20 years, and it just gets more and more awesome every year. And at number 1, actually not a Bandai Vinyl, believe it or not, but one of the very few X Plus figures in my collection. They tend to be a little cost prohibitive, so I don't have a lot of them, but I had to have this one, and I was very blessed to get it as a birthday gift. But again, the 89 suit, it's my favorite. I adore it, and X Plus truly have earned their reputation as the masters of just turning the suits into the most accurate sculpted vinyl and plastic figures you can get your hands on. And this thing is so beautiful. It is so accurate, and I couldn't ask for a better version of this suit, and I never will, because I'm not gonna get anything more of it. So there you go. That is my number 1. That was my 25. I hope you saw some stuff in there that made you smile, maybe brought back some memories of your own. Just thank you for checking it out, and happy hunting with your own treasure hunting and collecting, Kaiju fans.